Ciao friends, my name is Joee Balestrieri. Today I'm doing a project with our friends at Jesse James Beads, and I am using the new collection that is called Ombre. I am so excited about this. This Ombre collection has some really stunning focal beads, but the strands are that gradient of color where one color just softly melts into the next. The colorways in this collection are stunning, and so I did not cut open the strands because I wanted to show you how beautifully they come. I mean, I say this all the time with Jesse James beads, but if you wanted to just string them on another bead stringing wire or cord or anything, the work is already done for you. But look at this strand. The facets on these are beautiful and they're just gorgeous. I don't want to put them down. And look at this one. This is the prettiest strand. Like the white just like fades into the mint green and then the pale blue. I mean, just stunning. And this is my favorite strand. Look how cool this glass bead is. So pretty. I love the look of ombre. Anyway, I love the softness, and you know, it's just magical the way one color transitions gently into the next. I just love it. So this is the focal bead from the collection that I'm going to be working with today. This is a lovely acrylic bead, and it's really hard to tell that it's not glass, and I love that you get this chunkiness without the weight. It's very lightweight. So I'm going to be doing a set of bracelets today, and they are going to be really unique. Both bracelets are going to have this chain from Jesse James Beads in them, and I have borrowed some spacers from one of our magical mystery bead boxes back in the summer, I think, or maybe the early fall, but I'm taking some spacer discs. I've kind of harvested those, and that's one thing I love about my Jesse James bead mixes. No matter how many projects I make, it feels like my little pots and tubes are still full. So I've just grabbed a couple of bead caps from them, and I have a lobster claw clasp, and I'll need, for the second bracelet, I'll need two wire guardians, and I think I'm going to even be using some of these seed beads that I had left over from summer camp. It's a gold and silver mix, so they might make their way into my project. So I am going to cut these open now that I have shared them with you, because for the first design and maybe even the second design, I want to get these really pale kind of turquoise blue. Let me cut it down here so that I can keep the rest of it together. The ombre is so pretty. You almost hate to disturb it, but I have to. So I'm just going to tie this off and keep the rest of it in its sequence that it came in. And on this one, I think I am going to, let's see, which side I'm going to use one side of this. I think I'm going to cut right from here and maybe string. This bracelet is going to go from one strand into two strands. And so I'm going to lay these out here on my mat, and I'm just going to string them in this ombre order onto my bead stringing wire. And on this strand, I just want to steal this blue color right out of the middle. So I am going to cut this one right there and steal all of these blue beads right out of the middle. These little beauties will go into another project. Okay, I did not cut my chain because I don't want to waste it, and I'm going to start with my bead stringing wire. So I have a pretty long piece. This is like a bracelet length. It's going to be doubled over. So it's like a bracelet length, maybe 14 inches, like a bracelet length twice. And what I'm going to do is attach this directly to a link of my chain and just kind of fold it in half, and then put a crimp tube right down there and crimp it. And let me grab a crimp tube. Okay, so I'm just going to feed both ends of my bead stringing wire through the crimp tube and slide it right down to my chain. I want my loop to be large enough that it moves freely and it articulates, but not too large. And I'm going to use my magical crimping plier and turn this little tube into a tiny gold bead. Okay, so I have the start to my bracelet. So now to start off with, I'm just going to leave my chain hanging out here, and when I get my length and get my pattern just right, then I will trim it off where I want it. So I'm going to start out with one of these beads here, and I might want a spacer bead or an end cap. Yes, I do, because the holes in this are pretty large and they go right over my crimp bead. So let me open my little pot of spacers here. So the trick to this bracelet is whatever spacers or whatever I choose, it does have to fit on 2 strands of bead stringing wire. So that looks great. And I'm going to do one of these little flat, they look like a Pringles potato chip. And I think this is going to start off my pattern. Let's see. Oh yeah, that looks lovely. Love it. Okay, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do with the focal bead. Oh, that is so pretty. Okay, so what I'm doing with my focal bead is I'm going to stack some bead caps, and like I said, I borrowed these from a bead mix that didn't get completely used, and I'm going to start by feeding both wires through, nope, this one first. I'm stacking bead caps, so I'm going to do that one first, and then I'm going to put this thinner, these are really fun bead caps because they're malleable and you can actually mold it to the shape of a bead when you need to do that. And I'm going to do that, and it adds kind of the look of lace to this bead. So I'm just going to get it in here, and you can do it with your nylon jaw pliers or with your fingers. Just pull it down where I can work with it. And I'm just going to like shape it, fold it over my bead, and then push it up to the other bead cap. So I'm getting that effect. It looks gorgeous. It looks a little bit like gold lace over that bead. And I'm just going to repeat the same thing on this side. Just put both strands through. And I already kind of played with this one a little bit just before I finish my stack. I just want to make sure that it's hugging that bead. And then another bead cap. That is absolutely gorgeous. Okay, and now I think I am going to, now I have to decide, do I want to go into my 2 strands from here and then my single, back to my single strand? And I think I'm going to do it the opposite. I am going to start with one of these cool beads. These are amazing. No matter which way you turn them, you get this gorgeous geometry. And I'm going to put a disc spacer. I think I'm only going to do maybe 3 of these just to add a little texture, because I want to use most of them in my second bracelet. Okay, now I'm going to separate my strands, and I'm going to thread these little guys on here just the way that they were. Like I cut both strands open. I want to keep the ombre line up. So, and they can even sit next to each other. And here's where I think I am going to use seed beads to space these out. Just pour some in my little tray. And I also think that I am going to stick with just the gold. So I'm just going to pick up, I'm just using them as spacers. So I'm going to just pick up a gold. You could mix gold and silver here, but I need a fresh cut on this end. That's going to give me trouble. That is so pretty. Okay, I'm happy with that length. I don't want to, this is not crimped yet, but I am going to take my memory wire cutters and snip this chain right here. That's going to give me just the right extender chain. Take this off, take this off. And I will need that for the second bracelet, so I don't want to set that aside yet. And now I'm going to feed both of these strands through a number 2 crimp tube and crimp on this end. Make a loop. Okay, so this time I am going to leave one of my wires hanging out, and I'm going to send one of them back through the crimp tube and make a loop. And on this side, I do need to pay attention to my tension. And I just need, you could put your jump ring through here and it gives you a little bit of leverage, but I'm used to doing it this way. Just put your plier in there, whatever you need to do to get your loop. Okay, so I'm just making sure that I don't have a rigid bracelet. Everything looks really good, and I got my loop about how I want it. I'm just going to give this one more little pull just to make sure everything is the way that I want it, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Put magical crimping plier over the tube, make sure it is centered in that well. And since there are seed beads on the end of my project, just want to make sure that I'm not chomping down and breaking my seed beads in my final stringing pattern. So you can see I've pinched the 4 corners of the number 2 crimp tube, and I'm going to fit it in the opposite direction, making sure I'm not getting my seed beads, and close it again and just go around a few times and turning that tube into a beautiful little gold bead. And now I can trim away the excess wires. Okay, and it is ready for a clasp, and I am debating, I never can leave my extender chain final link empty. I have to put something on it. So I was debating about one of the little disco balls, or maybe another one of these, just wire wrapped. I think I kind of like repeating this component here. Let's see, let me grab a head pin and we'll do that. And I have a lobster claw clasp and a jump ring here, so we can go ahead and add that on. Okay, that is ready to clasp at any point on my chain. So this bracelet is fully adjustable, and if you make your chain long enough, you can even wear a bracelet design like this as an anklet. It's a really great as an anklet. Okay, I'm just going to take a ball head pin and kind of play with a bead stack for embellishing the bottom of my chain. Oh, that is beautiful. Yep, I like that. Okay, I'm gonna do a simple loop here. Just give that like a 45-degree bend, and I'll come in with my round nose pliers, bring that wire over the top barrel, rotate my pliers. I make my simple loops. It almost looks like I'm about to do a wire wrapped loop. I do all the first steps of a wire wrapped loop, make sure that loop is centered, and so I get a really good loop in there, and then I come with the flush side of my cutters and snip my loop right where it meets my bead stack, and then I can open this loop and add it directly to the last link of my chain and close it really well And I have a perfect little simple loop, and it's just a beautiful extension. Oh my goodness, you guys, this bracelet is so pretty. It's so gorgeous. Look at that. It changes, it's ombre, and it changes from 2 strands, changes beads. It's just gorgeous. This focal section is stunning, and it's adjustable. So this little lobster claw clasp, as everybody knows, you cannot clasp a bracelet when the camera's rolling, but it can clasp anywhere on the chain. Let me give it a go. Yes, I got it. And look at that. Isn't that a gorgeous, gorgeous bracelet? And I love the drama of this little dangle. And as I said, you could very easily wear this as an anklet with this extender chain. You can, hook it down here and have a little dramatic dangle on your ankle. Okay, I want to jump into the next bracelet. This one is stunning. I am so thrilled with the way that it turned out. So for the next design, I'm going to do something really unusual. I am going to do a stretch bracelet with chain. It's like an infinity. I have a little trick for doing it using some wire guardians. So let me grab my 2 wire guardians, and I'm going to do it in 2 sections. So I have 2 lengths of stretch cord here, and this is the 0.7 millimeter diameter, and that's important that it's the smaller size of the stretch cord because I'm going to double this over. So not only does it have to fit through a wire guardian, but 2 strands of the stretch cord have to fit through all of my beads for this technique. So I'm going to start with one. I'll set my other one aside, and I'm going to take my wire guardian here and put my stretch cord up through the little channel and down through the other channel, and let my stretch cord just rest in that groove that's at the top of the wire guardian. And I'm going to bring it to the center. I'm going to just pull this so that it's about equal on this side. So it looks like that. Let me get my fingers out of the way. So it looks like that. My stretch cord is in the wire guardian. And before I cut my chain, because I want to use all of the beads that I have left, because I want to be able to layer the stretch bracelet with the adjustable bracelet. So I'm not going to cut my chain yet. I'm going to go ahead and feed this on. So separate your 2 cords, and you're going to attach this to your link of chain. So just like that, just fit that wire guardian right in there. And so now it's attached to my chain. And so now I have to bring both of my strands of my stretch cord together. And now it has to fit through whatever beads you're stringing with. 2 strands do have to fit through here. So I know that 2 strands fit through this. I know they fit through everything, but I just have to decide if I want to use any of these in this project. And I kind of think that I do. I was worried that the scale of this bead would be too big for the chain, but I think it's perfect. But I do want to add some spacer beads. So let me go back to my little spacer bead selection here. That is really pretty. Okay, and so here you can adjust your stringing so that you have, a few inches of chain and a few inches of beads. Really, it's to your taste, how you like it. But in my case, what's going to dictate how much beads I have is how many of these I have left over, because I'm using everything in that color on the strand. And what I will say about this design is it's easier to take the bracelet on and off if you have a little bit more beads on stretch cord and a little bit less chain. So like maybe 2/3 of your length being beads and stretch cord and 1/3 being chain. That works pretty well. And I also, my other trick for making these easy to take on and off is making it a little bit bigger than you normally would, because the chain part of your design is obviously not going to stretch. So it's not like a stretch cord that you can do all the way around. So I am going to feed both wires through this bead, and both cord ends, and I'm going to keep going. Just string this up and see how far my beads get me before I cut my chain. That is so pretty. Okay, I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to clamp off this end, and then I'm going to come to this end now and check my length. I think with what I have left here and where I'm going to be, I think I'm going to be cutting right about there. So I'm going to come back in with my memory wire cutters and snip this link of chain and remove all my excess links that I'm going to save for another project. So I have all of this left for another delightful project. And so now I'm going to repeat the same thing with my other piece of stretch cord. Pre-stretch it, and same exact thing. I'm going to run my stretch cord up one little tube and down the other side tube and let it rest. Pull it to the middle and let it rest in the channel just the way that we did on the other side. And you'll see this is the coolest stretch bracelet. It's like an infinity. Nobody knows where it starts or stops, and there's no clasp, and how cool it is that it's a stretch cord with chain. I love doing stretch bracelets this way. It's so unique. So I'm just going to let that wire guardian, you can pinch it closed a little bit if you want to, but same thing that we did on the other side. And now I'm going to just repeat my bead pattern that I've been doing so it will meet up with the other side, and I'll show you the reason that I'm doing a little bit on this side and I left my largest bead on the other end, because when we tie a knot, that big bead will house all 4 strands as a knot hidden inside the bead. So nobody will be able to tell where it's knotted. So the only trick to this is, before you get started, check that your stretch cord fits through twice. 2 strands fit through the beads that you want to use in your design. This ombre collection works absolutely perfectly for this. So I know that looks really weird to just have a few beads on this side, but I'm going to remove my bead bug, and now I can come to this side and tie a knot. And so the bracelet is like an infinity, and the knot will go. In fact, I think I need to move this little disc bead. It doesn't have quite as big a hole as the crystal bead, as the glass turquoise bead. So I'm just going to move this over to this side so that when I tie my knot, it's really hidden. So I'll show you what I mean. So now I have this nice big hole and my potato chip, my Pringles looking bead. And so there are a lot of ways to tie off stretch cord bracelets, but I do simple overhand knots, and I do it like 2 or 3 times, and I'll do like right over left and then left over right. I have these larger hole beads, so I do not overthink this. I just do it this way, and I use a little beader's glue, and that I've never had one of these come apart doing that. And so I've got all 4 strands, and this is the perfect little pattern for hiding them in there. And so before I trim my knot away, in fact, it's going to hide so well behind that spacer bead that I'm just going to go ahead and add an extra one just for good measure. Okay, and now I'm just going to separate this using my beader's glue to get in here and just get some glue on that knot. and from here you can pull, I pull both of these strands just to work the glue down into the knot. And from here you could really like pull the knot inside this bead, but because of that spacer bead, I don't think I really need to do that. I think it hides pretty well on this design. And so now I could let this dry a little bit. I won't put it on until I've given that glue a little bit of a chance to dry, but I'm just going to come in here and trim my excess stretch cord away. And so this is so cool, a stretch cord bracelet with chain, and as you can see, it's an infinity style bracelet. You cannot tell where this starts or stops. It is so cool, and it will stack beautifully with my adjustable bracelet, but you could wear them together or separately. I think it's such a lovely little set. And I thank you so much for watching. I hope everybody's safe and well and having fun on your beading mat. See you in the next video.